ജയവുമായി പോയിടാം നാം യേശുവിനായി സാക്ഷികളായിടാം പോയിടാം നാം.
A reading from Nehemiah chapter 13. On that day they read from the book of Moses in hearing of the people, and in it was found written that no Ammonite Moabite should ever enter the assembly of God, because they did not meet the Israelites with bread and water, but had bound against them to curse them. Yet our God turned the curse into a blessing. When the people heard the law, they separated from Israel all those of foreign descent. Now, before this, the priest SYM, who was appointed over the chamber of the house of God, and who was related to Tobiah, prepared for Tobiah a large room where they had previously put the grain offerings, the frankincense, the vessels, and the heaps of grain, wine, and oil, which were given by commandment to the Levites, singers, and gatekeepers, and the contributions for the priests. While this was taking place, I was not in Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of King Artaxerxes of Babylon, I went to the king. After some time, I asked leave of the king and returned to Jerusalem. Then I discovered the wrong that SYM has done on behalf of Tobiah, preparing a room for him in the court of the house of God. And I was very angry, and I threw all of the household furnitures of Tobiah out of the room. Then I gave orders, and they cleansed the chambers, and I brought back the vessels of the house of God with the grain offerings and the frankincense. I also found out that the portions of the Levites has not been given to them, so that the Levites and the singers who had conducted the service had gone back to their fields. So I remonstrated with the officials and said, "Why is the house of God forsaken?" And I gathered them together and set them in their stations. Then all Judea brought the thits of grain, wine, and oil into the storehouses. And I appointed as treasurers over the storehouses the priest Nehemiah, the scribe Zadok, and the Pedaiah of the Levites, and their assistant Hanan, son of Zakur, son of Mattaniah, for they were considered faithful, and their duty was to distribute to their associates. Remember me, O my God, concerning this, and do not wipe out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for his service. In those days I saw Judah people treating wine presses on their Sabbath, and bringing in heaps of grain and loading them on donkeys, and also wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I warned them at times against selling food. Tyrians also, who lived in the city, bought in fish and all kinds of merchandise, and sold them on Sabbath to the people of Judea and in Jerusalem. Then I remonstrated with the nobles of Judea and said to them, "Why is this evil thing that you are doing, profaning the Sabbath day? Did not your ancestors act in this way, and did not our God bring all this disaster on us, on this city? Yet you bring more wrath on Israel by profaning the Sabbath." When I began to be dark at the gates of Jerusalem before the Sabbath, I commanded the doors should be shut and gave orders that they should not be opened until after Sabbath. And I set some of my servants over the gates to prevent any burdens from being brought in on the Sabbath day. Then the merchants and sellers of all kinds of merchandise spend the night outside Jerusalem once or twice. But I warned them and said to them, "Why do you spend the night in front of the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you." From that time on, they did not come on the Sabbath, and I commanded the Levites that they should purify themselves and come and guard the gates to keep Sabbath day holy. Remember this also in my favor, O my God, and spare me according to the greatness of your steadfast love. In those days also I saw Jews who had married women of Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab, and half of their children spoke the language of Ashdod, as they could not speak the language of Judea, but spoke the language of various peoples. And I condemned them and cursed them and beat them, and some of them, and pulled out their hair. And I made them take an oath in the name of God, saying, You shall not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, or for yourselves. Did not King Solomon of Israel sin on account of such women? Among the many nations there were no king like him, and he was beloved by his God, and God made him king all over Israel. Nevertheless, foreign women made him to sin. Shall we then listen to you and do all this great evil and act treacherously against our God by marrying foreign women? And one of the sons of Jeroiah, son of the high priest Eliasib, who was the son-in-law of Sanballat of Horonite, I chased him away from you. Remember them, O my God, because they have defiled the priesthood, the covenant of the priests and the Levites. Thus I cleansed them from everything fallen, and I established the duties of the priests and Levites, each in his work, and I provide for the wood offerings at appointed times, and for the first fruits. Remember me, O my God, for good.
പോയിടാം നാം ലോകം മുഴുവനും പോയിടാം സുവിശേഷവുമായി പോയിടാം